Mr. S podcastovci, dobroveče, evo nas ponovo, brže nego ikad možda, po prvi put na drugom mjestu, po prvi put na engleskom, pa pamtit će se i vizualno i audio. So, for the first time in English, for the first time with our guest from Turkey, our dear Melih, you're not a guest anymore, you're part of us because everything you did. And first of all, welcome.
Thank you.
And then your first coming to the Mr. S. How? Why?
Well, there is a good story behind it. I came here to visit my father. He lives in Belgrade. He's been living here for 15 years now. He came in the 90s. He moved on and off. Anyway, so I came to visit him, but it was around then that I started playing snooker. So when we were talking, I then suddenly realized that I was kind of bored in the conversation with him. So I decided to look up snooker clubs to see if I can actually spend my time in a more meaningful way. And luckily enough, I found one, Mr. S, and immediately convinced him to come over. So the first time I came here, it was with my father. And I was on the first table because I was a bit shy. So I entered and immediately turned left and started playing on the first table. And I was kind of stressed because this was also the first time he was watching me play. And I kept missing and I kept missing. And I'm sure he was thinking like, okay, so he plays snooker, but he's terrible. So I was a bit nervous. So that was my first time. I think Veljko, right? The guy, the pretty guy. He was here at the time. So I remember him clearly. And that was that. That was my first time. I also even have a photo of that occasion with my father. Yeah, so that was the first time. And the second time, we came, I think, as a group.
Yeah, and now it's fourth or fifth time. Do you count?
No, it's
More?
It should be more. I think it's, I mean, maybe fifth time. We came here twice with the guys to play in the Serbian-Turkey friendly tournament. One time I came for the Balkan Snooker League. I think one time I came on my own, and the first time I came with my father. So 5 times I already was here, and this might be my 6th time.
Yeah, one little off-the-topic sentence with the Veljko. You said pretty guy, and he's like, yeah, it's tough. When you're pretty, no one asks you about your emotions. But that's about it. Snooker or pool was the first thing you played?
No, I never played pool. I mean, I played with my friends, you know, in friendly occasions, but that was it. I mean, when we were in a bar or something, we would have this like spat, you know, I will beat you, no, I'll beat you, whatever. And we would drink and play pool. But I never really liked it that much. I mean, I never actually considered playing it seriously because I thought it was kind of like a simple game. But obviously, I don't think that way anymore. I think it has also its difficulties, not the game itself maybe, but competing against good players is difficult. So I never actually played pool. And the reason I started playing snooker is I used to watch a lot. But I knew it was very difficult, and my eyesight was a bit bad at the time. So I only began playing after I got this operation in my eye, and at that time I had another hobby that I probably shouldn't mention here. But
No, that will be just next question.
Okay. I had given up that hobby at that time, and it took a lot of my time. So I had to find something new, and that was how I decided to give it a go.
And now, please, because of the whole that image that we want to make, I know that story, but I want to hear once again. Give us as many details as you can. You played what and how much and how many and everything about it. It's interesting. Don't be shy. It's a good thing, especially for the mental health of one snooker player.
Okay, so I was doing a PhD, and I quit the PhD around 2011, and that's when I started playing poker kind of seriously, but I wasn't any good at it. But I won a tournament by purely like chance, and I said, okay, this is easy. You know, there is a lot of money here. So then I started studying, and I started reading everything and watching everything, kind of like how I do snooker now. So between 2012 and 2014, I was playing poker nonstop, basically. And I think it was in 2014 that they banned this website in Turkey. So I couldn't play online anymore in tournaments. So I could only play cash games in Turkey. And that didn't really suit my personality, you know, because in cash games, you play, you lose, and then you load again, you lose, you load again. So it kind of, it's like playing a frame for fun, you know? You play, and then you know there's going to be another one. So that's why your concentration drops, you get more emotional, and that didn't suit me. But tournaments, I did really well, because I knew that was like one tournament that if I went out, there wasn't going to be another one for another day sometimes. So that would keep me concentrated, focused, disciplined, organized. So yeah, I mean, I spent a lot of time doing that, but because of this Turkish strange regulation, I had to quit. So that's when I had to find a new hobby that was as intense and difficult and challenging as poker. So that's how I started playing snooker.
Yeah, I believe in two things. The first one, people love to hear about details. I will tell you what about especially. And I believe that many of snooker players know the rules about poker, and they played it, because maybe not in snooker, I know for the pool guys, and I know few of them, they won some big tournaments. But can you just give us a little more about your first one, about how much was buying, how much was the price, because that's some situation that we can compare to our imagination to say, okay, maybe if I did that, I will start to think about it in some serious way or something like that, if you remember. But
I remember, yeah. Of course I remember. It was a Saturday. I actually remember the time as well. It was the tournament started at 5, and I was visiting my mother at the time. It was 4:30, and she sometimes used to get on my nerves. This was one of those occasions. I had to leave to play the tournament. It was a $22 buy-in tournament. It was called the Saturday Eliminator on PokerStars. So I really enjoyed playing that because it wasn't that expensive, and 5,000 players, no, actually 3,800 players played. So the winner got like 12,000, 13,000. So that was like good return for $22. So I enjoyed playing that a lot, but she kept me in the house for a very long time, and I had to go to this house I was staying at. I wasn't living with my mother. So I remember running out of the apartment at some point around like 4:50, and made it to my own apartment around like 5:10, and bought in. And at that time, I wasn't really playing well. I didn't really know what I was doing. I mean, I knew the principles, I knew certain things, but I wasn't kind of confident on my actions, about my actions. So I remember there was one moment when I by mistake pressed all in with 7-4 offsuit, and it was like I was trying to fold, but the guy went all in, and instead of pressing fold, I pressed call, and the board was something like 6-3. Queen, something like that. I don't remember the specifics, but I remember the guy showed 4-5. So he was actually semi-bluffing for a straight draw, and I won with 7 high. I won the hand with 7 high, and I doubled up. And from then on, I was obviously like, I got good cards. I was running good. Probably I made some lucky plays. I don't really remember the specifics about that, but somehow I made it to the final table. And I was very excited because I think the ninth guy got something like $1,000, maybe something like that. So I had already secured that money. And in the final table, I ran like God. Like I was getting like these pairs, and I was calling this initial raise, and then suddenly I would hit a set. The guy would have, I don't know, like ace king, and the board would be like king 4 deuce. I would have 2 4s, and he would stack me, like I would stack him. So I ran like God, and they were actually writing in the chat. They understood that I wasn't really like a regular. So they were saying, "Oh, you lucky bastard," blah, blah, blah. But that's how I won my first tournament. I remember it was like $11,000 plus the knockout, plus the bounties that I got, because it was a bounty tournament.
For kicking out each player, yeah.
And this is the funny part about it, 3,800 players played, so I came first. The next week, I played the same tournament, and I chopped it for first place. So we were like, I was second in chips. We were heads up, but I got like 9,000, I think, from the second one. So in 2 weeks, from $22 tournaments, I came first and second, technically second. I mean, we actually chopped for first place, but anyway, so I think it counts as second. Came second next week.
That deserves like 1 minute of silence just to think about, okay, 3,800 people and I won that. I'm the first one, okay? And then it's not just coincidence, because next week, the similar number of players and I'm the second one. Maybe I'm good.
That's when I thought I'm either very lucky or maybe I have potential. I didn't think I was really good, but that actually kept me in the game. So I started learning, thinking, reading, studying, because I realized that if you have those mental skills, concentration, focus, that desire, that willingness to that patience, that willingness to stay in, regardless of the circumstances, it goes a long way in poker. Because I mean, poker theory is complicated, yes, but it's not like rocket science. You know, you do get a certain understanding, especially about tournament plays. You just have to be brave at certain points, patient in others, and you just have to balance that. So those mental skills I realized I had, especially in tournament play. But you know, the gambler side in me sort of sabotaged that by continuing to play a lot in cash games, where I would actually play recklessly and I would get very emotional. Whereas like tournament play is, you cannot be emotional. You have to be very rational, logical, and steady. Anyway, this is like a poker podcast.
Yeah, we never had one with a poker, but you're already good enough to speak about it. And I just want you to continue, because then I will ask you about what knowledge you can copy and install in Snooker. But let's see about the end of that story, or something in the middle before that.
Well,
after those first two.
Poker. I mean, I for that year, like in that year, I won many tournaments on PokerStars, which were relatively small in terms of the buy-in. Like there was one that I regularly either won or chopped. It was like a $11 rebuy tournament, which had a guaranteed prize pool of $40,000. So it was on Sunday evening, so it would well exceed that guarantee. So it would pay around 9,500 to the winner. So I regularly made the final table and won it like 3-4 times. And I made the final table of the Sunday warm-up tournament, which poker players would know. It's the second most popular PokerStars tournament on Sundays. The winner got $140,000, and I came ninth, unfortunately. And the guy who stacked me won the tournament. I still remember that hand. I got a little emotional. I went all in with a hand I shouldn't have, but we were 50% on the flop by basically chance. But he won that pot, and he went on to win. I remember his name still. It was his nickname, his handle, LeBron's. His name was LeBron's. He made $140,000, whereas I made $7,500. I was really sad. So I mean, there were many such examples. Like I really did well in the online tournament scene. But when PokerStars was banned, that was pretty much it, because the only tournaments I could play were in Cyprus, live tournaments, and they are very expensive to buy in. Like if you go for one tournament series, you have to spend around like $10,000 for just like 5 tournaments. And if you run bad 4 times, that makes $40,000. So I mean, you need to have somebody staking you in order to feel confident and do what you do best and play your best, basically. Otherwise, if you're scared of that money, you can never do well in a poker tournament. So it was around then that I realized poker was actually making me feel miserable, even though I was still doing okay. I still remember one instance where I was up almost like 7 buy-ins in a cash game, and I lost a hand where I was 70% favorite. I lost a big pot, but I was still 6 times my buy-in in profit. I lost that hand, and I remember banging the table. And then I realized, like, this is not good for me, because even if I'm winning, I find an excuse to feel angry and to feel bad, to feel unlucky. And I hate those emotions, because those are the kinds of emotions that are in my sort of DNA. If I find a way to take them out, it makes me miserable. I need to always like... So, and this would be maybe a good transition for the snooker.
Yeah, question. But correct me if I'm wrong, but you finished your playing on PokerStars in a big plus.
Tournament-wise, yes.
Tournament-wise.
No, but I would play cash games, and so what would happen is, like, I would, for instance, win a tournament and be 10,000 in plus for that week in tournaments. But then I would play cash games, and if I ran bad and lost, let's say, like 500, I would lose another 1,500 immediately, because I wanted to get that back, and I felt like really angry about playing cash games, but I should have been focusing on tournament games. So I would win 10,000, maybe give 3,000 away. Win 5,000, give maybe 5,000 away. So I had a plus, obviously, in PokerStars, but it wasn't, like, if I had kept playing tournaments strictly, I would have been in a huge plus. And the second thing, I then started going to these tournaments in Cyprus, and like 2-3 tournaments, if I didn't, 2-3 weeks, if I didn't cash in, I would lose like 25,000. So I realized that I had certain skills, and I had perhaps the right mindset for tournament play, but I couldn't really survive in that ecosystem unless I was doing it full time with being staked by others, so I could play in live tournaments around the world. So that was sort of like the financial.
Okay. But for the end of this topic, let's say you earn more than many professional players in snooker.
In terms of pure
maybe spend also,
in terms of pure like earnings, like if I were to show you my PokerStars stats, that they have like tournament winnings and stuff, I think I made about like 120 $20,000 or so. I had 2 accounts in 2 different times. So probably I made around like $120,000 in winnings in both accounts. But I mean, it doesn't obviously list how much you've actually given away of those 120,000. But in terms of pure winnings, yeah, I'm sure much better than
But that's a good sentence.
Mr. Pesic here.
That's a good sentence. And the second thing, anyone, what is your favorite poker player to finish this? Do you have one, or it doesn't matter?
I don't really believe in those things, but who I kind of like in terms of his demeanor on the table, I think I like Phil Ivey, but purely the demeanor, the focus that he has, the concentration that he has, because otherwise his play is, I mean, to me, no one is extraordinary in poker. Like I can understand what they're doing. I could do the same things. You could do the same things. If you shoot someone, if you video someone, if you film someone for a long time, they might also look like Phil Ivey. And there are many players that we don't know, or I've played against. I don't know their names. They're amazing. They're the same. So I don't really have any such category. In terms of bravery, I would like Tom Dwan, but I mean.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you because it's a player. And okay, maybe it's a gambling more than it's a sport, but they said it's a sport. And one thing is on my mind, like, is it possible to have pretty the same guys on the final table, not want to say all the time, but many times?
Of course.
They're good. It is not just about lucky.
Of course.
And because of that, I want to ask you about player, because they also play something good. Whatever you do in your life, if you are so good to be at the end or on the final table or whatever.
Of course, no, of course. I mean, there are certain stats also. I used to be crazy about those stats. Like, for instance, making the money is an important stat. Making the money means coming to that stage of the tournament where you start getting paid. So, for instance, if it's a $100 buy-in tournament, when that money stage begins, players eliminated at that stage get 220 back. So getting into that stage has a stat that goes by the name of ITM in the money. And so if you're a decent player, if you're a good player, that would be like 14%. So that means only 1 out of 7 tournaments, only in 1 out of 7 tournaments, a good player is expected to come to that stage. But the important thing is, do they just get to that stage, or do they proceed to the final table? And you have also those stats, which is incredible for some of the good players. Whenever they make the money, they actually go to the very end. But sometimes they lose in the first hand or the 5th hand. But they don't care, because they're trying to build a momentum and build a chip lead so that they would start playing more aggressively towards the end, when other players tend to be more scared. So I think those kinds of qualities and the ability to know when you have to play aggressively and how you're willing to risk your stack in the beginning of a tournament just to win it makes a huge difference. Because perhaps also this is like what you said about going to snooker tournaments. These people who are good in poker, they're there to win the tournament. They're not there not to lose their stack, or they're not there just to make it to the money stage. They are there to win it. So they know from the first hand they start playing that they're there to win it. And that makes a huge difference, because most of the amateurs, they go into a tournament and they just don't want to lose immediately, right? They don't want to pay $1,000 and get out in the second hand. They want to survive. And the more you want to survive, the more afraid you become, the more timid you become. And it's easy to play against those kinds of players.
Yeah. So many topics from the poker. But what do you think about that? Are you like the most prepared guy for snooker, or you spend too much lifetime nerves and patience in that part of your life. Is it good for you that you play that now when you want to play snooker, or is it something between? How you will
You have to
describe it?
clarify. You have to clarify. I didn't really get the gist of the question. Prepared. What do you mean by prepared? Like prepared for?
Mentally prepared.
Mentally prepared.
Yeah.
Or mentally ready, you mean? Like, am I like the most mentally...
You survived those situations, and you maybe know how to handle something similar on the table. Many players, especially young one, doesn't know how to do that.
I think I have the worst mental qualities to play
Because of
snooker.
that, or source is something else?
Hmm?
Because of the poker, or source of that is something else?
No, I think what you need in these two games are somewhat similar, but they're also entirely different. First of all, when you're playing poker, you're playing with closed cards, right? Nobody sees your cards, and you're on your own. Nobody watches you. Nobody cares about, how you play that hand. I mean, that obviously when the hands are, turned over, they can make certain speculations, but most of the time, the cards are never revealed. So you're kind of playing on your own without thinking that anybody is watching you. You don't have any performance anxiety. All you care about is you want to make the most out of that situation, that circumstance. Plus, you know that it requires intelligence, or let's not say intelligence, but it requires a certain intellectual ability or inclination. So I never had doubts about that side of me. Like I never had, okay, I'm stupid and this guy is clever. I never had that complex, inferiority complex. But when you're playing snooker, I think it's a completely different thing. Like you're aware of your deficiencies. You're aware of things you cannot do and things you can do. And when you're faced with a situation where you cannot do a simple thing and your opponent can, that creates that self-criticism that almost you want to run out and kill yourself. So in poker, you never experience that. It's much more intellectual, it's much more cerebral, and I never considered it to be gambling, especially tournament play. But in snooker, I think you need to have a quite different mindset. You need to enjoy being watched. You need to be okay with performing. You need to be peaceful in your mind. You need to stop talking to yourself. And I have all those like negative qualities. Like you cannot imagine the kinds of things I tell myself when I'm playing, like the kinds of self-commentary I make.
Yeah, okay, I will not forget that. We will, we will be back. But let's describe to our podcasters, if you want to describe your level of play, give us a few numbers, like some titles, some breaks, some average breaks. Maybe that's the more important part of description.
It's difficult. Also, I'll start with the objective things. First of all, we rarely play serious tournaments in Turkey. It's not like in Serbia. We only have 1 or 2 national championships throughout the year. It's normally 1, but sometimes it's 2. And I only played twice in these international competitions. So I never had a chance to play regular important tournaments to have stats from those. And I think the highest I made in that kind of a tournament was like 48 or something. But in practice frames, my highest is 91, and I had several 80s. I had maybe dozens of 70s, and I don't know, maybe like 30, 40, 60s. Yeah. But my break standard, and it's difficult to, I think, come up with a number, but if I had to be honest, my break standard would be like 35. Like I would expect to make a 35, let's say, I mean, if I'm playing okay, by the way. If I'm playing terrible, I may not even make a 35 because that happens very frequently. But if I play normal, like I miss certain shots, I make the others, I would make 35 like 3-4 times in like 6-7 frames if I'm playing against an average player. But there are days when, you know, I would never even come close because that's the problem in my game. I can play very good in one moment, but terrible the next, and just the difference. Yeah. Everybody has that kind of like discrepancy between their good play and bad play. But I always thought that mine is very pronounced, and I don't really know the reasons behind it. But so yeah, I would say 35 as a break standard.
Yeah. And how long do you play snooker in total?
I've been playing for 5 years.
5 years, and you're like self-coached pretty much?
Yeah, yeah.
That's good. And how many hours per day or per week?
Per week, in the beginning, in the first couple of years, I used to play maybe on average 8 to 10 hours every week, because I used to work much more in my actual job. So I wouldn't play almost for 3-4 months, but the remaining time I would play a lot. But recently, in the past couple of years, 2-3 years, I'm playing throughout the year, probably 3-4 times a week, on average like 6 hours a day. So that would make maybe like 20 hours per week.
Yeah, and when I now know all that, it's like just you're missing big matches. That's it, because it's enough time if you're talented. Definitely you are talented. You are self-coached. You just need more good opponents. You have one big one. It's time to say who's that guy.
Tuba.
Yeah.
Tuba is a terribly good opponent. He recently, actually, before I came over here, he made 2 centuries and a 60 in 3 frames. It's like, I mean, strange player.
Yeah, but can you play enough with him? Like,
no, we play
in the club?
Yeah. I mean, when he's in Turkey, we play. Generally, we always play against each other. And he's really depressing me. I mean, the way he plays, it's difficult to explain. Only snooker players would understand. Sometimes they look at his technique, you know, they look at his feet, they go like, that's no way to stand, that's no way to hold the cue. But I mean, the way he strikes the ball and the way the ball moves, and his knowledge of the game, it's just incredible. But he has also obviously some issues, I think, which he wouldn't admit, and probably if he were watching it, he would laugh about it. But obviously, because he's at such a good level, he plays very recklessly against players he doesn't really respect, and he kind of like justifies it by saying he's just trying to get his arm straight. So he's playing like these hard shots, you know, difficult shots. So he makes errors, and if you're playing well that day, I mean, of course you can beat him. But he's just incredible to watch, and I think everybody, I mean, if he were here in the Balkan Snooker League, people would really enjoy his
and
presence.
We wanted that kind of player. Yeah, I'm a little bit angry on myself, because when he came in this club for the first time, I played only a few frames with him, maybe one in some practice mode, let's say like that. And the second one was the final in the shootout. But if you are talented, when you watch someone who is so good, you can just copy all those things. And the way he plays, it's so easy, like the sound of the shot, like attitude, coming to the shot, everything. And I played much better because I played against him. And I needed 2 hours, 4, 6, but I was so stupid. I made some other decisions. I was on the snooker table, but not with him. But okay, next time we will try, and please try to bring him to Balkan Snooker League.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've actually we
it's
talked
hard,
about
but-
it, but currently he's busy trying to find sponsors for this Turkish Masters. So
To have another one.
hopefully,
Was it successful? Maybe it's a better question for him, but like in Turkey, what is the impression about the tournament?
I mean, it was very successful from a certain standpoint. According to World Snooker Tour, probably it was very successful because the tournament went really well. It had really great viewing numbers, audience wise. There was a 147 in the tournament that was nice. There wasn't any scheduling or organizational problem. They loved the hotel. The hotel was amazing. So I think everybody who took part in it really enjoyed it. It was a really good tournament. But in terms of its repercussions in Turkey, I don't think many people were aware of it. I think generally we didn't do a good marketing. We didn't have a good marketing strategy to have more interest than there actually was during the event. So in that sense, I don't think it was as successful as it could have been. But I think because it was the first tournament in Turkey, those things are acceptable and understandable. Our priority, I mean, Tuğba's priority, I was just helping with like menial things. We were like a group helping out with menial things. I'm saying we just to simplify. So I think generally we did a good job making sure that the tournament ran smoothly and the players were happy and the WST staff was happy. So I think that was good. It was a good tournament in that sense.
Yeah, next time I'll try to be there, and I hope it will be next time.
Hopefully, let's see.
Yeah, we had, I think, 2 times European Championship in Belgrade, and really that's the let's say the dark side of that tournament. It was successful, everyone enjoyed, but we didn't have one new player because of that tournament. No one went there and said to self, like, yeah, it's good, I want to start to play snooker or whatever. And that part is missing, and maybe that's the problem with the big events. The people who already play snooker will come to see, or some people who are just watching. But those people who wants to start, they're not there. I don't know why. Maybe because of marketing. Maybe because they're afraid when they see the level of playing. I don't know why. I didn't think about it so much. But it's a shame because when you see, for example, Novak Djokovic, when he won some tournament, I cannot count how many children will think, I want to do that, and tomorrow they will start to practice tennis. But
well, I think, it has to do with the fact that, in these, for instance, European Championships, I also was thinking about this when I was watching the Malta event. And I was in Albania myself. And also, where was I? No, I was in Turkey in the World Championships. So the problem is the people organizing these events, they're not really thinking in those terms. They're just trying to get the tournament done. And they're thinking of financial things, like how to finance the tournament, how to, make a little profit out of it or stuff like that. How to find a hotel that has a big space. So they're thinking about those things. But what they should be thinking, perhaps, I mean, I don't know if they are, but I don't see the results. They should reach out to schools and make sure that all schools in the region are aware of that event. So some of them will be interested, and they will bring, I don't know, first graders, second graders, third graders, I don't know, maybe the entire school. And they will come and they will watch the little kids with their parents, perhaps. Yeah. And that would create such a good environment for the players, because I don't know if you played in front of such an audience, but I haven't. And I cannot imagine what it would feel like.
I did, sorry for interrupting. I did, but it was really strange because I played that tournament in Romania, Bucharest, and it was my first international title. It was for 52 players with Andrei Orzan. He was the champion of Romania for that year, and Mihail Vladu, he was like, I think, the third place in world under 16 that year. But the situation was, I am the only guy who is not from Romania. That is important way of thinking. And the crowd was like, if I miss, it's good, but they are silence. If I pot, it's not good, but they are silence. And if he put something, it's good, but it was good because I led 1-0, 2-0, and then the end was 3-0. It was awful match, but I won. I didn't have that moment like, wow, everyone is cheering, it's a good atmosphere, something like that. But I have something similar in my club, and I can see the difference, especially during the shootout or something like that. People want to have that moment they can impact on player, on atmosphere, on every part of snooker, because that's also a big part of the sport. Let's say football. These days, football, I really want to say that it's not a sport. It has some elements, but about behaving, about salaries, about every single part, it's really dirty part of the sport. But when you go to watch some game, you can release big amount of energy, you can clear yourself in some way, you can feel that atmosphere of many people doing the same thing all the time, singing, cheering, whatever, and it's a good thing. And snooker, I'm afraid, many times miss that opportunity to include people more than it's usual. Yeah. Because it's okay to be silence. It's good for players, but give us something. Give us those sentences, go Ronnie. Give us something like that. It can be that sparkle that will make a firework, and that's the situation that we will remember.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, for instance, even when we were discussing this thing, I was thinking about this place, because this place is very good for having an audience for important tournaments, for important matches, like the Balkan Snooker League, for instance. Imagine having people sitting upstairs, like 50, 60 people watching. How much of a difference that would make on players' performance, what they think about the event, coping with pressure, or I don't know, like if you win an important match, how different you would feel for having won that match. Because normally, you know, we tend to play snooker like zombies. We win a match, we kind of take it lightly, or we try to take it lightly. We try not to show off. So you win an important match, and you go like to your opponent, and then you're like, oh, whatever. You go, you hug someone, but that's it. You don't brag about it. You try not to feel happy almost. And when you lose, you're really frustrated, you're angry, but again, you don't want to show it, right? There is a certain etiquette assigned to the sport that I think prevents those emotions from coming out. Whereas, like, if there was an audience watching that event, I think you would feel differently. When you lose, you would really feel miserable and you would show it. And if you won, then you would probably like do a fist bump or something like that, like what Sean Murphy did. maybe you would cry, or there would be something different.
Yeah, but you will feel something, and you cannot hide all the time, especially in front of the crowd. You lose that control. I remember my, let's say, biggest 3 matches. The last one was the Balkan Snooker League Masters against Dima. In the crowd, maybe 40 people, something like that. And the meaning of that tournament to me was really high and big. And after that winning, after potting those balls, you need to say some words. You need to say something about the tournament, about yourself, and you cannot hide that, and I don't want to hide that. But maybe the biggest crowd was in Vrnjačka Banja. I had some really special situation. I don't want to speak about it because I did it already. But I played a match when it was everything about that frame. Will I pass the group or I wouldn't? And the guy, the really big, really good player from Ukraine, I cannot remember the name, shame on me, but it was something tough frame, and at the end he potted the yellow. It was for the frame, for the ending, and the crowd was like, I wouldn't lie if I say 70 or 80 people, but it was a messy situation, and they all came to see what will be the end of it. He potted that yellow, and I was like, okay, that's it, what to do? He potted the green ball, and then the cue ball came to the pocket. And I had the cue ball in the hand. If I clear, I have enough points because of that foul. And I did it. And when I was crossing from the pink to the black ball, I said loudly, is it possible that I will win now? I potted the black, and that moment when I heard that amount of applause, that will remember more than that whole tournament or some other one that I won. But crowd is much more important than we think, much more.
Yeah, I mean, I had a similar experience, not with as many players, but for the first time, there were like 10, 15 people watching only in a friendly tournament, this is. And I expected to be entirely nervous because there were these people watching and I knew all of them. That was also a problem. If I didn't know any of them, then I may have felt a bit different, but these people I knew, and they had certain expectations from me and from the way I play, and they had certain judgments about me. I knew that, so it was very difficult to prepare. But I remember as I started playing, they kind of disappeared, but they were there all at the same time. Mm-hmm. Like I didn't really think about them. I couldn't even see them. But I knew at the back of my mind that they were there. And that was like such a different experience, such a beautiful experience. And I think that's probably similar to, I don't want to exaggerate, but it should be somewhat similar to what these professional players experience playing in front of these great audiences. They're there, but they don't see them. And that's when you start to enjoy the game rather than think about your performance. And it was really lovely. And I was so proud, in a strange way, to actually play my best in that situation, because that's something I never did. Like you could be sitting here, like that's what generally happens to me. For instance, I'm playing here, I'm practicing, and you walk in. I miss the first shot, definitely, always, because whenever somebody comes in that I know, I start to watch myself through that person's eyes, and I want to criticize myself so much that I make an effort to miss an easy ball or something. So I was really proud at that time that I could play my very best in that situation, probably because I had a better mental preparation for that game, which was very important to me in terms of, what it meant in my snooker journey against a very good opponent that I didn't expect to win. So I was really proud during the match, and that was a very strange experience because I'm never proud of myself when I'm playing snooker.
You should be. But it's a fact when you see all those athletes, like before high jump, long jump, whatever discipline you want to say, they're searching for the crowd to give them a rhythm, to give them applause, to give them everything. We all know like those moments when we are the same, like clapping and stuff. And because of that, they reach the best result on those competitions. It's not accidentally, like they maybe can make some record in some smaller competition, but no, it's always World Championship or Olympic Games. And it's always like that, but in snooker, crowd is like, it can be there, but it's not so important. Maybe because of the number of the people can be around the table. It is some kind of problem. Because of that, maybe this is more a TV sport than live sport. But also that's a different thing. If you are in live, you will see many different layers of game that you cannot see through the TV. But I think in Crucible, how much I forgot that number.
900 plus or something like that, I think.
What is 900?
I think so. I think, if I'm not mistaken, people may correct me now, my friends, that they would say, you got that wrong.
And dozens of millions can watch, and not just can, they watch snooker all the time. But, okay.
Well, I mean, I think we had a good example, right, with the event in Hong Kong where 6,000 people or so watched the event live. It can be done.
It can?
It can be done, but until today, I think nobody actually thought about snooker being one of those sports that 6,000 people would come and watch. But I think they could. Like,
Ronnie Sullivan exhibition match with Jimmy White last year, November, in Bulgaria. First night in Sofia, second one in Plovdiv. First night in Sofia, 1,400 people, good amount. Next one in Plovdiv, 4,000 people. And imagine even him, that impression, like I played in front of 4,000 people. He's a human, okay, he's a special human, but that's the thing. And let's say one big thank you to all crowd and one big hello to all organizers, like put a little more highlight on that crowd, make it better. Something else I wanted to speak, I didn't forget. Give me just 2 sentences that you're saying to yourself when you miss. Because you told me I can't imagine.
Before I miss or after I miss?
After. It's more
before
spicy.
is more interesting.
Before it's more interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more interesting because after you expect I mean, you would know yourself because you probably do the same.
Yeah.
I mean, after I miss, probably I say something like, well done, donkey. You didn't disappoint yourself, you know, obviously you were going to miss it this way or stuff like that. I mean, it's kind of usual, understandable, expected. Before I miss, I say stuff like so how are you going to miss this one? Like, it's very difficult to miss. So are you going to miss it this way or that way? Or are you going to do this with your hand? Or are you going to do this with your, I don't know, bridge? But let's see what happens. So that would be one of the things. Second, even a donkey or a monkey, I sometimes switch between the two, wouldn't miss this. So probably you will.
Do you have the bright side of your personality before and after shot? Some sentences like, okay, Melih, you're good. You know how to do this.
No.
No.
I never do that.
Did you try?
I'm trying now. I'm not during the shots, but I'm trying to have that kind of routine before I start playing, you know, a practice session or a practice frame. But even that requires a lot of discipline and confidence. So I don't really mean it when I say those things. But now I'm trying to come up with like new ideas to prevent me from speaking to myself during the shot. But I think since I came to Belgrade, I couldn't do those things because this is like a new environment. I feel like I'm on vacation and I'm not really practicing in practice mode. So it was difficult to do it here. But I'm saying things like, okay, in. You know, like instead of saying you're a donkey, you will miss, or, you know, even a blind person would pot this, you know, like you would probably need to lose your arm to miss this, you know, but you will, kind of things. Like I instead of saying those things, I say in or down or center, you know, stuff like that. And that helps. I actually, I started doing this like a month ago, and since I did that, I could immediately see the benefits of having that mental preparation. I played in this tournament, which was a big tournament in Turkey. It was not an official tournament, but it was better than an official tournament because we had Iranian players play as well. Tuba was playing. So it was very competitive, and all the matches were long matches, you know, best of sevens throughout after the group stage. And in that tournament, I played against Tuba in the semifinal, and I beat him 4-1, which was like incredible because, I mean, maybe I can beat him like 2-1, maybe like 3-2 on a very good day. But like on a best of seven to beat someone like him very convincingly, I mean, not in the sense that all the frames were like 80-10, but like 4-1 without really experiencing many obstacles during the match. That was like incredible, and I owe it to this new mental preparation that I'm trying to have. And in the final, I played decent, but the Iranian player is a really good player. And I was on a high, I think, because I beat Tuba like an hour ago, so it was difficult to concentrate for the other one. So that was one of the highlights. And the second is, when I was practicing on my own, things felt very different. I played much more focused, and instead of focusing on the negatives, I was focusing on the positives. So that's like I almost cleared the lineup, every red in order. I missed the last red next to the blue, only because I thought that I finished it. So I got really nervous and I couldn't deal with it. And that, I think, has to do with this trying to block out those self-criticisms and that self-commentary that runs in my head all the time when I'm playing snooker by these like minor techniques.
It's so good to have this recorded, because many players are already shaped. Like they already choose a side, bright side or dark side, and it's much easier to be on the dark side. But you are not a junior, it's true, and you figure out that that's not good, and you found a way to make that transition, and it's so healthy, and it's so big sentence to say to all of them, it can be changed. It's just about the will. Do you want or you don't want? It's just about that, and it's not helping. It's a progression. Every single bad thing, it's a progression. Alcohol, smoking, lying, whatever. It just became bigger and bigger and bigger.
Exactly. I mean, you know, since we started talking about poker, this is like, I think, where both games are similar. It's very easy to come up with excuses. In poker, for instance, I have many friends who keep talking about this hand, that hand, you know, how, you know, if this happened differently, then they could have done this, done that. They're very unlucky. And ultimately, when you spot certain mistakes that they do, you know, instead of being unlucky,
Yeah.
which you were maybe, but there is also this instance where you absolutely butchered the hand, which could have completely transformed your success in that particular tournament or cash game, whatever. And instead of focusing on that, they focus on that unlucky instance that they suffered. And it's the same in snooker. Like, okay, obviously there is luck involved. I mean, in everything in life, there is luck involved. You go into the pack, or your opponent makes a mistake and he leaves nothing on. He butchers a shot and he leaves nothing on. Obviously, these things happen, but there are certain objectives, like certain objective stuff, that they then refuse to think about because they're so focused on that thing. But ultimately, you have to control what you can control in the best way possible, and just forget about the rest, because nobody can do anything about it. But if you don't really control, if you don't really make an attempt to control your emotions, to control your behavior, your personality, whatever, and then complain about all these other things, then you're just kind of avoiding the actual problem, because ultimately we just want to be the best versions of ourselves when we're playing this game.
Yeah.
If we are the worst versions of ourselves, then what's the complaint and what's the purpose?
It's unbelievable how many times I saw that moment I missed, and I'm nervous. No, but I speak about some other player, and he's trying again. He missed because of the same thing, and he's again angry, just a little more because he missed, and again and again and again. And I said to him just, but why did you miss? Tell me that. I don't know. If you missed something and you don't know, and you're practicing many years, you just don't want to know, or you don't want to think about it. And it's so easy because snooker, I didn't try every single sport on this planet, but snooker, it's so good for making everything even. If you had luck, you had really enough amount, like the situation when you didn't have luck. And everything is even. Just, it's about how much, what is the frame for observation that. If you see one frame, maybe you didn't have more or less in that one. But in whole that match, or that day, or that tournament, it's even. And there is no player who has more luck, or someone who doesn't have more, but you have people who are remembering just one side of it. And I saw that many times, like they made a fluke, and it's like, it's okay, it's part of the game. But when opponent makes a fluke, they're like, oh, did you see? And why? But why you're not so honest to yourself? Like, every single match is recorded, sit down, drink a coffee, and say to yourself, this time elbow, this time I didn't know about the spin. And when you see that list, it's not about the consequences, luck or unlucky. No, it's about you. And because of that, it's a good sport. Not if I want to be lucky or not lucky, I will play slot machines, and maybe I will be lucky. Or
yeah, but I want to like separate. I think two things that I think are often like misunderstood when we try to contextualize this concept of luck, because I don't think it's even. I don't think certain people are unlucky or the others are lucky, but I think when you get lucky and when you get unlucky, that's critical in any part of your life. For instance, think about Kyren Wilson playing against Anthony McGill in the semifinals of the World Championships. You know, he fluked to Brown, and he won the match because of that. And if the Brown didn't go in, and if it stayed in front of the pocket, and Anthony McGill pot that in that match and played the final, and maybe beat Ronnie, that one ball determines Anthony McGill's rest of his career. That one ball, and of course Anthony McGill had the same luck in another match, but it wasn't as important as this one. So I think when that luck hits you or avoids you, is really interesting, and it's random, and it's important. I don't think that can be left out of the picture. But what's crucial is you cannot control that, so you cannot really fight that. But what you can fight is how you deal with it in a particular situation. And that's what many people, I think, in this game or in poker or any other sport, they sort of don't want to deal with that. And that's the actual noble thing, right? That's the actual talent to be able to deal with that, because that's a difficult thing. It's easy to play well when things are going well, but it's very difficult to play well when things are going against you. And that's the difficult part. That's what we should be proud of if we're able to do, right? Because otherwise, if the table is shit, if the conditions are terrible, and you're playing terrible because of that, anybody can do that.
Yeah.
But it's really noble if you can actually play your best when the conditions are terrible, when you're unlucky, when your opponent is a donkey. That's the
and that's the knowledge. Okay, conditions can impact some percent opponent, his behaving, whatever. But if you know what to do, the conditions are the same for him and for you.
Yeah.
Maybe he's used to those conditions, maybe you're not. Okay, that's a difference. But I want to say...
But also I want to add something. The fact that I'm saying these things by no means that I can do those things. I'm actually terrible. So, okay.
Yeah,
so
it's easy to say.
Yeah, exactly.
But
I could be a good coach, not a good player.
You have enough time to try. Two things. About lucky, I think it's not so random. I think it's something that you can deserve, especially in snooker. If you put enough effort, you can deserve it. But the second thing, I think, it's really important. It's something that you deserved, but not in snooker. Maybe you deserve that because you did something good in some other part of your life, and your attitude and your achievements and everything you did in that part, maybe you got a prize over there.
Anthony McGill would be angry when he hears
maybe,
this.
but it will be so hard to find those sources, like why Current Wilson did. Maybe it's a shitty theory, but for me, I think there is always some bigger reason. Maybe whatever, we don't know what is the reason or source, and we cannot attach that with a consequence. For us, it's a random thing. But maybe everything has some strings attached, but we don't know what's the... What about Ronnie and the red one hit it with a speed of 15 on the scale from 1 to 10?
Which
I think with the Selby 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
What about that? But he maybe deserved because he gave us so much, like for snooker in total. Okay, one ball for the man like him, maybe that's good. Maybe Selby will be angry now,
but I think that wasn't.
It's a philosophy. What is luck then?
It wasn't that I never thought was that lucky, because he actually did what he wanted to do. He wanted to hit the red ball full, and he did.
Yeah, okay.
And playing it that hard, he played the red ball full. So if he hit the red ball full, he ensured there would be separation between the white and the red. I don't know if he thought about it consciously, but he just wanted to hit the red ball full, and he wanted to hit it hard.
And he did both, yeah.
If he hit the red ball almost like half ball, and if that happened, that would be very lucky. But when I watched it, I wasn't thinking like, this is so lucky. I just thought, okay, it was a beautiful end result. It was kind of lucky that he was snookered. But, when you hit the red ball at that pace, full ball, I don't think you will leave anything on unless the red stays in front of the pocket. I don't know. That's my theory.
What do you think about future of snooker? Like, let's say 10 years from now, we don't have Mark Williams, Ronnie O'Sullivan, Selby, Judd Trump. Maybe we will, but let's say we don't have them.
I heard somebody say Jack Lisowski could be the next Ronnie, and I was like shocked.
Maybe next Trump, but Ronnie.
I mean, he has the finesse, he has the beautiful, fluid action, but I mean, he doesn't have the intelligence. So I don't think we will have one of those players in the future. But I don't know. I mean, when you ask me about the future of snooker, for some reason I don't think about those big names. I think about
No, not about the names, just whole situation.
No, what I'm saying is that I don't think about the professionals. I think about the amateurs and how many young people will be playing, and how many people will be playing in Turkey or in Serbia or in I don't know, in Europe, in Belgium, for instance.
Yeah, that numbers will grow for sure.
I don't know if will it or will it die, because it's not like a normal game. It's not like a game you would expect this new generation to pick up and enjoy, because it requires a lot of patience. Rewards come only at the very end, if they ever do. I mean, there are players in England, sometimes I read these forums just to have a laugh, you know, from England. The guy has been playing for 40 years and his ice break is like 24. You know, like he probably shivers when he pots like 2 reds and 2 blacks. So it's that kind of a game. So the rewards never do come sometimes. And you have to play a lot, practice a lot, persevere. And I don't think that's something that the new generation is taught to have. You know, if you have kids like Dika and Jovan playing here, they're outliers. They're not really indications that the Serbian youth will pick up snooker. So I'm not really that hopeful about the future, but you know, I may be wrong. I mean, this might be a very narrow point of view, but I think this is also why many people are afraid that there won't be another Ronnie, there won't be another Mark Williams, mostly because I don't think the junior competitions in England are as tough as they used to be. Now, some of the English players I watch in European Championships, some of the Irish ones, they're okay. They're not impressive. They wouldn't stand a chance against a professional. But in their time, when Ronnie was playing, John Higgins was playing when they were 15, 16, when Judd Trump was playing when he was like 12, 13, everybody knew that they were going to be terrific. And they ended up being terrific. So I think that's one of the reasons. There were just so many good players, young players. There were like 500, 600 players playing in the junior competitions in the UK. And obviously, like 10 of them were super talented, super intelligent. So they ended up being the Ronnies and Trumps and whatever. But because now the size is probably smaller, or the competitiveness and the quality of competition is slightly weaker, I don't think there will be many amazing players coming out, probably. But
yeah, big topic, because I think that it will be better for snooker. Now we have 128 pro players, and we have maybe 7 to 9 countries. I don't know, but something like that. I think it will be much better if we have 20, 30 countries in that number, 128, because now maybe you like Ronnie, you don't like Ronnie, whatever, but what he does, it's so good and it's so nice to see. Also with the Trump, with Mark Williams, with everything. But I didn't, and I wouldn't turn on TV to see again some match between the Selby and Higgins today. Maybe I'm busy, maybe I will do it on demand, maybe I wouldn't at all. But if I know that some guy that I knew from the Balkan, not just from the Serbia, I will watch that for sure. And imagine that situation that from each single country you have just one, how many people will turn on to TV to say that guy? And that will grow faster than we think. That's my first observation. The second one, maybe 30 years ago, when they speak about who will be the next Alex Higgins or someone else, they didn't think maybe about the Stephen Hendry, and then 15 or 10 years later, they speak about the same thing, and then never can guess that Ronnie will be 7-time champion or maybe next year 8-time. In sport, maybe it's going like that, but yeah, we have some wave like going down of those special names. LeBron will end his career, but first of all, Jordan did it. Usain Bolt, Federer, soon, unfortunately, but years are passing. Djokovic, Rossi did it. Ronnie will do the same. And we have that thing like going down with big names, but maybe that's a natural thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, in these other sports, I think there is a different side to it. First of all, there is more money for those players, for basketball players, for tennis players. There is more money for more people. So it's easier for parents or for children to be attracted to those sports. But in snooker, I mean, only maybe 10 players, 15 players make decent money, good money. The others, they try to survive, like 40, 50 players, they do okay. But the others, they earn sometimes less than minimum wage in England.
Yeah.
So looking up to that, it's difficult to justify all that hard work. So that's, I think, one of the differences. Second, snooker will never be like tennis for many people. Like, it's not to me. I think snooker is as demanding, is as difficult, probably more difficult, and is as beautiful as tennis, more beautiful in my case. But I don't think many people will recognize that. Many people will have the patience to compare even snooker to tennis. So tennis, automatically, if you say you're a tennis player, you're liked. You're liked by your friends. You're liked by the friends of your parents. You're liked by, if you're a guy, you're liked by girls. If you're a girl, you're liked by boys. You know, it's something that's liked. But if you're a snooker player, first of all, they don't understand what it is. Second, when they understand it's billiards, they go like, So I mean, it's also difficult to really be proud of being a snooker player because nobody knows, and those who kind of do, they don't think it's really that sexy of a sport. So I mean, there are all these obstacles. Plus, I brought imagine the kids you're teaching here. Like, how many of them do you think will have the patience to do something as unsuccessfully as someone ever could for such a long time? I mean, some of them drop out, and it's just natural in this period and age, you know? They have these iPads, rewards come quickly,
Yeah.
right? You can't really wait to pot that black ball 10 out of 10, right? I don't know, but I'm a pessimist, so, you know, whatever I say needs to be taken with some reservation.
Yeah.
So.
And I have immediately different answers, but it's okay. Yeah, for me, when they come here to have a practice session, it's already some kind of achievement because they left the phone. Okay, now I will try to do this. And it's hard to bring to the source of their focus and willingness and everything. But after a few months or years, you can come to that place. Because now they are not just, I potted, I missed. It's okay, I want to figure out why. And for me, I speak in their names, for them it's a better feeling to pot the hard one after some struggling than to have some special reward in some game or to see some video on TikTok. They are doing that because all the kids around the world are doing the same. But definitely we are so fast that we need to burn out in some point, and to make some kind of restart. And people who are playing snooker, we are already restarted. We are restarting all the time, because if you like this kind of game, you're a person who can do that. But I don't know anyone who is, I don't want to say normal, but if you watch snooker, you have some calmness in you and you want to pay attention to that part of your body, and you're giving the effort to be in that mode. If you're playing, it's also the same, but with some bigger expectations, something like that. But the people who came on the snooker and play for 1 hour, and they are so frustrated because they didn't put anything, and they went out and don't come back, no more.
It's okay.
It's something wrong with them.
Yeah.
So
it's okay that they go, because they probably are never going to be good for this place.
Yeah, that's the second part. You are good, it's something, definitely. Every single person is perfect for something. Maybe someone will find out for what, maybe someone don't, unfortunately. But if you don't take a snooker as a challenge, you take it just as a frustration because you're not so good at it, there is some problem in you. Because it's not logic to be good at something that you never tried before. Yeah, if I want to ride a horse now, or formula, whatever. But you can take some part of it and enjoy it. If you don't know how to do that, maybe you don't know how to do that in the other parts of your life.
Maybe, but the reason why they do that, we have the same example in Turkey, obviously. There are these guys who come in, who try to play, they go like, what the hell is this? And then they never come back. But it's that, I think that they're playing pool at, recreationally, they played pool. So they think this is the same game, right? They see the pockets, they see balls. Yeah. So the idea is to put these balls into the pockets. So when they come and play, they're frustrated because when they were playing pool, it wasn't that difficult, right? So why can't I put this? It's easy. Like I used to put this in pool. But obviously it's different games, and those people just do not understand that the entire logic is different. I mean, yes, there is potting involved, but the logic is quite different. I mean, there is a certain, first of all, this game requires some numerical analysis. Like there are points on the table, so you have to make a strategy. Whereas in pool, you have balls. If you pot them all, you win.
Yeah.
No strategy whatsoever, unless you want to go 2-0 down, so that your opponent feels like a bit more confident. So anyway, so I think that's why that frustration generally kicks in, because they expect something different from this game because of their earlier experiences. I've never seen someone who actually knows snooker and comes trying to play to experience that frustration. I only saw challenge in a good way, like they already knew how difficult it was, and they were enjoying that difficulty when they first started playing. So if you know a little bit about snooker before coming in, you don't experience that frustration. Only after a certain period of time does that frustration kick in. I used to be so happy when I first started playing. I was missing left and right. I couldn't, send the ball up and down in a straight line, but I loved it. Like I was mesmerized by it. I was like, I knew at some point I was going to do it, and the expectation of that, one day I'm actually going to be able to do it. I was so happy.
That's it. Yeah, it's hard for everyone, but you were happy because you were trying.
Yes, and I knew I was going to do it at some point. Only at a certain point I realized I couldn't. So then I became frustrated.
Yeah, I think the snooker really is such a good lab to conclude some things about people, but not just about snooker. You can see when someone enters the club and you see the way he will go to the table, the way he will ask about conditions of playing, the way he will pick the cue and lay down and hit first 3 balls. you can say so much about that man or woman, but it's the same. Yeah, I want to say that because we have that like, no, man and woman, human and woman, like in Serbian, but it's a common joke. And you can conclude so much about it, and I don't think I'm wrong if I say something like that, because now it's a long story. I wanted to make some research about the lines on your face, about the attitude of your body, and about surroundings that you grew up, and that's from the 0 or from the birth to the 4th year. That's the period when you shape your personality the first time. The second one, it's until the 7th year, and then it goes like this. But snooker, it's some space when you can see everything I said, but with the grown-ups. They cannot hide that. They cannot hide, do they smile or do they do something else when they miss? You can see people are missing all the time and they're laughing. They're enjoying. And the second one is some frustrated guy from the life. Everything is stupid, everything is boring. If he pot, he is the world champion. If he misses, it's a stupid game and he will do something else. But he will behave in the same way, whatever he does.
So, how would you categorize me?
I just, now, you never said to me before that you are trying to be on the bright side. I was so joyful when I was hearing about your dark side, but I knew from the start that you're not that guy. It's just a phase. You're good on the table, you have so much energy and that moment like, I want to be better, I want to learn, I know what I don't know, I know how much I can learn, and I'm really take care of snooker. And that's the biggest part. And you have enough talent to be a century player easily, just you need some different things. But the most important one, and you realize you're by your own, and that's attitude. That's the most important one, because if you had the previous episodes with the dark mode, whatever I leave on the table, you can miss. And at the end, you are just a perfect example for all the other players. They will find that empathy moment like, oh, I was the same. Yeah, but now I see it can be changed, because if you are just a happy, smile person and you want everything that you can want, people will like that story, but okay, it's something that maybe they cannot find in themselves. Mm-hmm. If you are bad, it's much easier to find that part in yourself, but it's not helpful. But you're the both sides, and that's good because balance is everything. Dark, now bright, and then you're something in the middle. You know how to handle with dark, then you will learn how to handle with the bright, because it's not so easy also. And then you're just some kind of hero to them, because that's the thing they need. And I really wish you all the best.
And also, it's I have to add, it's not easy to make that change, and I still have that negative moments, and I've actually recently had it in a match here. I mean, I just want to lose. I just want to make every conceivable mistake that a player can make on the table. I want to make them all. So that still exists in me. I still have that ability to play terrible, to play the worst version of myself.
Definitely, but I think...
But I at least can recognize certain way out. And I did that before, so I can do it again. And this, I'm not saying I played a good match. What I'm saying is I played for the first time differently in a match, in terms of feeling happy, feeling relaxed, feeling like I'm enjoying myself, and I would love to be here again. Right? I mean, even when I played well in a match where I was nervous, that wasn't the feeling. I still wanted to leave that place. I didn't want to compete because I didn't like it. I didn't like being in that mode. But now I know that if I do certain things differently, I can actually enjoy even competing. I already like practicing on my own. It's enjoyable. But even competition I can enjoy if I do certain things right.
Yeah.
So that's the good thing.
And I think whatever we do during the playing or practicing, we want to find a trigger for the good stuff or the bad stuff, but whatever, that we are searching for triggers all the time.
Yeah.
And it's good to do that even in life.
What's your trigger?
Many of them. Sometimes it's like how long I can be good, and when I start to think about things like, okay, now I'm playing good because of why, if I can make that list and still play good, it's clear knowledge, like you know because of what, and you can prove it all the time. But for example, my matches on Malta, it was like, okay, I found out about conditions. They are good, but I need to make the same one before the tournament because it's really something different for our muscle memory. But I was like, okay, whatever I do, I will try my best. I will not go to the room and say to myself, I can put more effort. No, I will do everything I could, but I will not be nervous if I make some mistake because of the conditions. And I will separate the sources of mistake, like, is it because of me? Am I too lazy? Or it's something that I cannot see before the shot because the angles are different, the speed is different, and what to do. And the first match, I lost. It was incredible. Like, I led 1-0. I almost led 2-0 because I have 35 points lead and 1 red on the table. That means 35 also. And we played respotted black. I won the coin. I let him play, and he did 1 cushion straight to the pocket. And I wasn't nervous at all. Another frame was also interesting one, another one. And I went to the room, I lost 3-1. It was important for passing the group, for something like that. But match after match, I realized that I cannot be frustrated, I cannot be angry if I choose not to be. Because I found out how things can be bad for me, and I can still be the man who can change that momentum and to say, okay, I did everything wrong, the result is bad, but I'm not nervous. I can still play good, and I can change that. And that was the biggest thing for me, because I realized that I'm so improved that part of my mental stability. And for me, going to European Championship is the same time vacation and competition, because when I'm there, I think only about that. And in my life, it's just a rare case, because when I play in my club, I think about the curtains, air conditioning, waiters, conditions on the table, my coaching sessions tomorrow, schedule, and private life, everything. And it's good, I'm happy with it. But I need that moment like snooker, next ball, and what to do with it. And for me, that's enough to enjoy. Maybe it's not so much, but for me, it's...
I remembered Stephen Hendry's trigger. I read it somewhere, or maybe he told somebody about it. This wasn't in one of his podcasts, but in one of his YouTube things. This was very early that I read it or heard him speak about it. He would think about Dubai for some reason, like sitting in his chair, and this was like in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s. He would think about Dubai. That was his favorite place So when he was frustrated, he made a mistake, and he's sitting in his chair, he would think about that place because that made him feel happy. And I tried doing that, but then I realized I don't have that kind of a place in my memory. Maybe it could be Belgrade, but that was, I think, interesting to find out. Then I thought about certain pets I had, or certain friends I had. I tried doing that, but it doesn't work. I still don't have that good place to go to, which I think could be very useful.
And let's leave the rest of the story for another podcast maybe, in Istanbul someday, maybe. I don't know, but Istanbul is on the list for many things, but we'll see. Do you sing in your mind or humbling something during the play sometimes?
Sing?
Yeah, does it help you to...
I never tried it.
Really?
It's funny.
You don't have some song during the play?
No.
Ooh.
No. Recently I started listening to a song before I start to play.
Okay,
so the same song I listen to. I didn't do it here, but I do it when I'm in my ordinary, usual circumstances. But I never actually... I did it like a few times. Okay, so this is what I do. If there is a really, really nice song that I like that is playing at the club when I'm playing, and it's special to me in a way. For instance, like I was 15, I was in love, and that song was my way of relating to that girl. If that sort of came up, I would suddenly feel really, really happy, energetic, and I would actually sing that song and play much better. So that happened to me, but I don't have that kind of a routine that I do normally. I told you, all I say in my mind is negative and about missing.
And try with the singing, because the focus is so good. Find some rhythm that is good for you. It makes you to be up, and it's good because then when you think about it, you don't care about the opponent behaving. If you are not good with that person or the situation is bad, whatever, but the music can cure you in some level that you cannot imagine.
And actually, it's quite helpful for. It brings to my mind something else that is very important when playing this game, is that you shouldn't think that much. Like, for instance, you're on the black, you have to get onto this other red. You don't have to like go and stand there and watch how to get, like see how to get to that red, because you already know it. I mean, your brain knows how to get to that red. It did that before. You already know from your past experiences of watching, playing, seeing other people play in the club. So you already know it. But the reason you go and look at that specifically in that moment is to first cure your anxiety, and second, to tell your brain that you don't want to do something else than that shot. But actually, when you're listening to a song or when you're singing to a song, suddenly you start playing the game like it should be played, almost like a professional player, because you know everything about this game already. You don't know that you know it, but you actually do. Like any player who's been playing for 3-4 years, who's actually put in the practice, I think knows most of the game, if not the most, let's say, complicated shots and situations that might arise in a match. Like anything, any positional shot, they actually know how to play it, even if they haven't, maybe they didn't do it for 10,000 times, but they know it. So when you relax yourself, when you calm the mind, when you start singing a song, suddenly those things will happen automatically. And that's when you're in the zone, I guess, right? Mm-hmm. No thinking, just doing, believing in yourself, believing your ability. So yeah, maybe that could be my next.
Yeah, try. I wish you much more time into zone, and I wish that next time when I say hello podcasters, good evening, this evening with us, century player from Turkey, Melih Egemen.
I don't care.
Okay.
I don't care that much about centuries, to be honest.
Okay.
If I can make 10 more 90s, I'll be happy.
Okay, Melih, thank you for this episode 1, season 1, and what do you want to do until the next one?
I have simple expectations. I have now the Turkish championships coming up. Hopefully, I do well and manage to play in the Europeans next season. I don't have any break ambitions or anything. I just want to play consistently and enjoy myself. And thank you very much for hosting me, not only for the podcast, but also at the club in Belgrade. And I hope I'll be here again for another episode.
It's
thank you.
Our pleasure. See you again.
Ciao.